Well, Superman has his fortress of solitude, and Bruce Wayne, he's got the Bat Cave, and me, the Menzoid, I've got the Menzoid Man Cave, a place to sit back, chill out, talk about the issues of the day. And I'm very pleased to welcome back in the Man Cave the spokesman for the Canadian Shooting Sports Association, Mr. Tony Bernardo. Welcome back, Tony.
Thank you very much. Nice to be back.
Fantastic. Now, Tony, we were talking about the chief firearms officer last time you were here, but interesting, back in January, the sheriff, I believe it was, yes, Milwaukee County Sheriff David Clark Jr., he released a 30-second public announcement, and basically it was directed to the members of the public, and it said, if you are under threat, if you're in your house and you have criminals that mean to do you harm, fight back, even using lethal force if necessary, because you can't depend on a swift police response from the time you dial 911 to the time these criminals do harm or even kill you. And this seems common sense. Wisconsin, of course, one of the states like Texas and many others that have castle doctrine laws. And I just thought, what a breath of fresh air, the idea that you could defend your life in your own household, and how this contrasts with Canada, where we have seen time and time again householders, shopkeepers being hauled before a court for simply defending themselves.
Right. And I think what's really interesting is that they get hauled before a court and they get acquitted.
Yes.
Because British common law says that the right to defend your tender pink body is a paramount right. Even though the authorities may not like it, when you put it in front of the court, you have the right.
Okay, so two things here, Tony. One is, what is driving these charges by the Crown in the first place? Secondly, as you know, you can win the battle, lose the war. You give up months of your time, thousands in legal fees. You're under incredible stress that you might be facing prison time. So even though you win, you effectively lose, don't you?
That's right. And the punishment is the process. The Crown takes you to court on these charges knowing they can't win. The idea is to cost you money, and a whole lot of it. And when you have somebody who's invaded your home, you do have the right to repel invaders. There is a bunch of stuff that people think is in the criminal code. Like, for example, you can only use like sufficient force to match force to force.
Yeah.
Well, that's nonsense.
Of course.
It's nonsense.
Yeah.
If somebody is in your home in the middle of the night, they're not selling you Girl Scout cookies, right?
Indeed.
Right. And you have the right to respond to them and do that. And I'll tell you, we've never had a conviction.
But certainly, Tony, at the end of the day, the justice system, these Crown prosecutors are receiving an enormous PR black eye in the eyes of Joe and Jane Canadian out there.
Yeah.
Is this maybe what's going to change this? Because there is absolute outrage in the land that honest people defending themselves are being treated like this.
Absolutely, and people need to become more outraged. Okay, the problem that we have in Canada, there isn't enough outrage. We need a lot more. We need Canadians to stand up and tell their members of Parliament, enough is enough. These people should not be run through the court system. But my understanding is that officers have very little discretion as to whether or not they have to lay a charge.
So sometimes they're instructed to lay that charge.
Definitely they're instructed to lay the charge. Many, many times, most times.
Are these kind of cases going to continue to prevail, Tony, or because of the backlash out there in terms of the public, most of the media, do you see the Crown prosecutors backing off when it comes to people essentially defending their own lives?
I hope so. I hope they read the writing on the wall, because if they don't do this, they force the politician's hand to legislate against their discretion about weighing charges, and they will progressively tie them up in knots. I'm not sure that's a bad thing. I mean, some of these Crowns are just unbelievable. You have to sit in the courtroom and listen to some of this stuff.
Maybe, Tony, there has to be a situation where this kind of horrendous event happens to them, so they find out what it's like when you're at the mercy of a thug.
I sure hope not.
Well, you know what? How else do you expect these kind of people to have empathy for for this kind of position.
I like to think if they make it to the level of Crown Attorney, they have enough intelligence to be able to figure this out.
Would you bet the house on it?
No.
Tony, a pleasure.
Thanks,
and
Dave.
I hope things do change for the better. There's too many of these stories. They are miscarriages of justice.
Absolutely.
When you're hauled into a court for basically defending your own life or your property. It's absolutely egregious.
Crazy.
Thank you so much, Tony. And folks, keep it here to Men's Oil Mornings. More coming up right after this.